I think by that time we were kind of hitting our own groove. You know, right at the beginning, we were obviously, you know, as a beginning band, we were influenced by the musicians that sort of inspired us to pick up our instruments. And I mean, you know, between us, it was people like, you know, John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Return to Forever, you know, very much kind of jazz fusion, you know, Miles Davis, all of that stuff, Bitches Brew. Also people like Stevie Wonder, James Brown, Cream, Jimi Hendrix. That was the kind of collective gene pool of the people that inspired us. And plus the fact that there were 3 drummers in the band originally, because I used to play drums and Mark used to be a drummer before he became a bass player. So, you know, it was all about Billy Cobham, Tony Williams, Lenny White, that kind of thing. I think it's to do with the quality of the songwriting, to be honest. You know, the thing is that there are a lot of good young songwriters, but whether you hear them as much as you would do in the 80s. In the 80s, you know, there was a system, there was the whole record company thing, there was the whole promotion and radio play. You know, we made a record and we made an album and we chose singles, or we chose singles along with the record company that would get on the radio, and they had to be a certain length to be able to play on the radio. And if you got on the radio, then other people would hear it and then they'd buy the record, and if they liked it, they'd buy the album. And things work very differently now. So I think, you know, partly it's a nostalgia for youth that the 80s thing is popular, but it, you know, the 80s music had a kind of style about it. It also had a huge diversity. You know, there were a lot of bands that were popular in the 80s that were quite different from each other. And you know, what you hear on the radio today, it depends on which radio station you listen to, you can often hear a lot of groups that sound very similar to each other, so you don't have the diversity that you're hearing in mainstream radio. You've got to search elsewhere. Well, you know, if I could find a record shop for a start, I would probably, I'd start in the jazz section. I'd be looking through to see, you know, if any particular artists that I really like have got either a new recording out or an old recording that I'd not heard, or maybe had been recommended to me. Sean Freeman, who plays sax Level 42, he's great because he's always sort of name-checking great recordings, you know, from like people like Wayne Shorter and so on, that I'd never, you know, have come across or have a chance to check out. So I'd probably start there, and then I'd probably go to the, if you like, world music section. I'd check in African, Brazilian. And then I would next probably go to the classical section.